Good evening, everyone. On behalf of English Language Teachers Association of India, ELTAI, I welcome you all to this weekend series of webinars, the second in this series. The topic today is delving deep into the process of writing. And we have our moderator, Dr. Nilima Sharma, the panelists, Madam Mamta Saluja, Madam Dolly Dhawan, Madam Rajni Jamini, Madam Ruchi Sengate, and Madam Alka Rai. Before I hand it over to the moderator, Madam Nilima Sharma, I'll just briefly talk about the history of ELTAI, the objectives, and the benefits of joining ELTAI, because I'm sure many of you are not members of ELTAI. For those who are, it may sound a little repetitive, but please bear with me. ELTAI, as a teachers association, started in the year 1974, and late Padam Shri S. Natarajan was the founder of ELTAI. Even before the starting of the association, way back in 1965, ELTAI had already started the Journal of English Language Teaching, which still continues to be published bi-monthly. It's a peer-reviewed journal, and the oldest journal, I suppose, in India. The head office of ELTAI is in Chennai, and we have 53 chapters in different parts of the country. ELTAI has also signed Memorandum of Understanding with various teachers associations in Asia, Bangladesh, Malaysia, Cambodia, to name a few, and also with Cambridge University Press. The objective of ELTAI is to provide a forum to teachers of English, organize development programs, provide consultancy, impart latest knowledge in the field of English language teaching, and promoting research and experimentation. We also provide professional support. Now coming to the benefits of joining ELTAI, because many members who intend to join ELTAI first want to know what are the benefits that we're going to get. So the first benefit is that you can join e-courses, which are these days quite common, but you can join these e-courses from various foreign universities, US, UK universities, which are offered free to some of our selected members. We also provide this bi-monthly journal. Also, the subscription of the e-journal, the Journal of Teaching and Research in English Literature, is free. We have 3 special interest groups, SIGs to be short: Business English SIG, Literature SIG, and Computer Technology SIG. So members also get free subscription to all these SIGs. Beyond that, they can also publish articles in our journals. Through ELTAI, you can also go in for membership of ITEFL, which is a UK-based teachers association, and you get a copy of Voices through that membership, which is subsidized. Otherwise, it is roughly 6,000, but being a member of ELTAI, you get it in 600. Then you also have subsidized subscription for membership of TESOL, which is based in US, and various sponsorship for conferences within the country and outside the country. We also have professional development programs through webinars. This is one in the series. Through seminars, conferences, and workshops. ELTAI also provides consultancy services to educational institutions. And we also provide professional support to students, teachers, by providing practice material, training manuals, and worksheets. So this is briefly about the benefits. And now I would like to introduce our moderator, Madam Nilima Sharma. Dr. Nilima Sharma is Vice President, Associate Vice President with Trinity College London for Asia and India for English language. She's consultant with Department of Language in CERT. She's a teacher trainer who has been trained in UK. She's a member of various committees for CBSE courses, worked as principal and administrator, director of education, Delhi. She has received the prestigious Hornby Scholarship twice. She is an authority on assessment and speaking, on assessment of speaking and listening, ASL to be short. She's authored quite a few books, textbooks in fact. Her papers have been published in national and international journals. She's the senior academic consultant with CBSE, and quite interestingly, presently she's engaged in development of an encyclopedia of Mahabharata. So that is a brief introduction to our moderator, Dr. Nilima Sharma. On to you, madam, please take over.
Sorry?
Yes, madam, you can take over, please.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Arora. Thank you very much. Good evening, most esteemed community of teachers and educators. It's my pleasure to be invited by the ELTAI for moderating this session. On behalf of the team of experts and on my own behalf, I express my gratitude to ELTAI and to your team for providing this opportunity. Thank you very much. It's great. Now, the topic, as Dr. Sanjay has already said, is delving deep into the process of writing, a sustained piece of writing, a pathway to CBSE revised syllabus guidelines for secondary and senior secondary classes for the year 2020 to 21. Remember, these are revised guidelines. This panel has exceptional practicing teachers, freelancers, who are both learners at heart and educators. We have Ruchi Sengar. Could we show her? Mamta Saluja, Rajni Jaimini, Dolly Dhawan, and Alka Rai. I'll give the credentials of each panelist before they start presenting. Now about the process of writing. While we were discussing the topic, we thought the product is very easy to produce, but the process is difficult for the teachers. How to teach students the process of writing. The much discussed topic of the process, writing, aims to teach a child how to write a certain type of paragraph or a sustained piece of writing, be it a report, a paragraph, article, report, of course, yes, debate, or data interpretation, or even a story. And these are all parts of the CBSE curriculum guidelines. Most of the teachers would be teaching the process based on CODER, CODER, which is an acronym for collecting, organizing, drafting, editing, and reviewing. This overarching acronym talks about the steps, but what goes into each step depends upon the type of writing. The types of writing could be descriptive, expository, persuasive, analytical, or finally creative. Another tip for the process is the PAD, PAD, which is an acronym again, and which is very useful for students. And it stands for P for purpose of writing, which is given in the question. Audience A. For who are you writing? For whom is it meant for? And the direction, in which direction are you writing your sustained piece? The first panelist, Ms. Ruchi Sengar, will be discussing the process of descriptive writing. I introduce her to you. Ms. Ruchi Sengar An ELT consultant, she has over 25 years of experience as teacher in various CBSE schools of Delhi, currently involved in writing ELT textbooks and workbooks, creating listening and speaking skill-based support texts, trainer and content writer for the CBSE Reading Literacy Project for critical and creative thinking, a CELTA Pass A, Trinity trainee, CBSE teacher training module writer, and PISA content developer. She has been training teachers across the country in various schools for CBSE and renowned organizations and private bodies, created podcasts and CCT resources for the CBSE Diksha app. Ruchi Sengar now will be talking about descriptive writing. I hand over the platform to Ruchi, please. Thank you. Ruchi.
Thank you. Thank you. Am I audible?
Yes. Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Sharma. Good evening, everyone. It's always a tall task taking on something at the helm of affairs. So I'm going to try my best, though. My topic is descriptive writing, and rightly so. It's a great add to this seminar. Why? Because it begins all the way down from upper primary and carries on till secondary school. Naturally, a lot of education boards have prescribed this in their curriculum, as has CBSE. If you look at the CBSE curriculum 2020-21, you would notice that in the English language and literature course for class 9, descriptive writing figures in question 3. It comes as a descriptive paragraph wherein you have to describe a person, a place, event, or an experience in the form of diary entry. The word limit is 150 to 200 words, and it's pegged at 10 marks. The features for descriptive writing, which we could share with our kids at the initial level, would be clear, sensory, specific, and figurative. What does that mean? It means clear focus on the subject or the topic, sensory details that appeal to the reader, specific and interesting adjectives. Specific is very important, and figurative language with our very familiar buddies, similes, and metaphors. What does it mean for the child to develop a resource for sensory language? Without this, a descriptive paragraph really doesn't make any sense. So we have to handhold the kids, tell them that they need to write about what they see, what they hear, what they smell, what they taste, and what they touch when they are talking about a descriptive paragraph, a topic in a descriptive paragraph. I'll come to this in detail later. To include sensory details while writing. What does it mean for a child to organize his or her ideas with the inclusion of sensory details? This is what it would mean. While writing, we could train our kids to think about, if I drew a picture of my topic, what would I draw? What sounds do I think of when I think about my topic? What sounds would be found near my topic, right? And then we could tell the kids, okay, think about what smells could be found near your topic. What feelings do you think of when you think about your topic? Or what is it that you can feel with your topic? And if I had to describe my topic as a taste, what would it be? Or actually a taste, right? As it's shown here, the ant latched on to the rich, sweet laddu. It could also mean meeting a quarrel with my friend left a bitter taste in my mouth. Even that is definitely about taste. It's unfair to expect the children to create a product without the necessary tools, and giving the child the tools is what includes the process, right? The shape, size, color. Let's give them the resource, the sounds, the smells, taste, touch. A lot of schools, if I may, have put up this resource in the English room, on the notice board. The teacher even comes to the class and writes this on the blackboard pertaining to the topic. It corresponds to the topic. And the children are quite in a tizzy because they know that they don't have to hunt for the resource and they can just go about organizing their ideas and writing. Another thing that works very well is stretching a sentence. We've given them the resource. They have a host of ideas in their heads. How do they organize? So they would organize by stretching a sentence. For example, who? My teacher. Did what? When? Where, and why. If you I'm going to use the pointer and explain this to you. If you look at this, they begin with this. Quite a few of our students get lost somewhere here, but to move from here to somewhere here is quite a task. And this is what Dr. Sharma mentioned as the process. Are they thinking like putting the ideas in a process? Let's move forward. Let's talk about description of a person, right? That's there in the descriptive paragraph in class 9 syllabus. So what would it take for them to describe a person? How do we train them to organize their ideas as a part of a process? We would say, all right, beta ji, start thinking in these lines, along these lines. What is a person known for? What do they look like? How would you describe their personality? What do you admire most about them? What interests, hobbies do they have? What would you do if you met them? That's there in the descriptive paragraph with your personal impression or opinion of them. Naturally, if they keep answering these questions in an organized manner, they would definitely give birth to a robust paragraph, if I might say so. We move on to the importance of always giving a resource to the students when it comes to describing a person. This would be the resource, and I'm sure creative teachers could add much more according to the age group and the students that they are addressing. The second one is a description of a place. It has faced quite a few people, and in my experience, the writing goes all over the place. So what is the best way to organize something like this? I think there are 3 handy guides that the teacher might put across to the children. It's definitely going to help them organize their ideas. Where, what, why. So where would constitute the introductory lines. What is the name of the place? Where is it located? Now imagine the child has just answered these questions and the introductory sentences are done, right? So maybe 20, 25 words are taken care of. Okay, and the child has learned how to approach that writing, okay? And then you have the details. What are the things you can see here? Remember sensory language? What are the things you can see? What are the things that you can do here? Concluding lines. This is one of my favorites. What are your feelings about the place? Would you like to come back to this place? Why not, right? Again, the resource to help the organization of this particular writing. Some phrases that I really like, especially the one that says it offers, not something users of second language use naturally. The atmosphere is, it's not just the environment, it's the atmosphere of the place. You shouldn't miss, all right? And then you have, it's well known for, it's got, it's possible to. I would recommend that the teachers definitely in favor of organizing and the process, tell the kids that they must list the physical and human features of the local area, and they should use a geographic vocabulary: beach, valley, mountain, hill, rural, urban, anything, right? And they could, there are some eager beavers, they could begin to compare the local area to other areas, right? Let's go on to the description of an, even this is quite simple, really. One of my favorites, it works like a charm in the classroom. 5 W's and an H. So what happened? When did it happen? Where did it take place? Why was it important or interesting? Who was involved, the chief guest, yada, 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 and how did it happen? This would include the details, right? Student resource, a lot of teachers swear by these resources. You could definitely keep blank greens and give them the worksheet with the whites. So in pairs or in groups, they first plan what they are going to write about the event and go on forward with that. We come last to the diary entry, and I would call it description of an experience. So therefore, you begin with a general sentence or the describing of the topic. People choose to go in chronological order. Some might follow a flashback technique. The most important thing to tell the kids is what they've learned from the experience and what would be their future course of action. If they end with something like this, it will be brilliant. To conclude, ladies and gentlemen, remember, dear teachers, equip the children, help them plan their ideas with relevant organizers, train them, help them internalize the process of developing these ideas, ensure they have the proper resources, and please give them partially filled paragraphs to get the grammar in place. Thank you. You've been wonderful. Thank you for your patience. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ruchi. That was a wonderful presentation. And your WH tips, I think, will remain with all the teachers all their life. And I am sure they are going to remain with the students also. Like I remember PAD since my childhood, when I was taught in the school. And also the use of sensory perception. It's really important to use all the senses while you are describing something. Students start writing descriptions right from class 1 onwards, and that goes up to class 10th or 11th when they are past beyond their age of teenaging. So my mother can be written in class 1, in class 5, as well as in class 9. But the sentences change, the vocabulary that you have given, that input, if the teachers give in the class, it really works wonders with the students. And also, it gives a lot of confidence to the students. So I think whoever is listening to this webinar should be very happy to learn these tips. Thank you very much. Our next panelist is Mamta Saluja. A brief about her. A passionate teacher and a learner, presently heading a senior secondary school of the Directorate of Education, Delhi. She is a renowned ELT expert and has been conferred the State Teachers Award in 2015 for her contribution to the excellence in education. And if I may say or mention, she made headlines on Twitter yesterday because of her school getting as a distribution center. For the last 1 month, she has been distributing packets of lunch to the labor and the migrant community. A wonderful job, Mamta. Lovely to have you here. And in the year 2013, she participated in the Fulbright program, ILEP, that is International Leaders in Education Program, as fellow at James Madison University, Virginia. She is a Trinity College London and British Council trained trainer, content writer, a textbook writer. She has presented her academic writings and papers at various national and international conferences. She would be talking about expository paragraphs. Mamta, over to you now. Thank you.
Thank you, Nilima ma'am. It's indeed an honor to be here at the ELTAI platform. And to take further from what Ruchi has shared about descriptive, I move on to expository. The title itself, the name itself explains it. This writing is what lays bare before us the details, the information. This is what keeps us informed about what we are talking. Then Besides information and description, at times it is our personal inputs in the forms of explanation. And when we finish with the explanation, we definitely have to conclude, because what is the purpose of our writing? Now, the features of expository writing, yes, the details. The difference expository writing has from what descriptive is basically this: it is focused. It does not talk about what we feel through the senses, as Ruchi Sengar was talking about in the descriptive writing. Here, we may have to provide examples to be clear about it, because they help in understanding. To take a few examples of expository writing, which are as simple as a recipe of a kitchen dish, and as complicated as a synopsis of a research thesis, where we begin by stating our objective of the research proposal, our methodology, how are we going to work about it, and what would our interpretation be about. But when we come to the CBSE specifications about expository writing, we limit ourselves to article writing, report writing, and factual description. Article writing and report writing I'll not be taking upon due to paucity of time. I'll just be focusing on factual description for today. Now, the title again, the factual description, makes it quite clear. We begin with an introduction. Whenever we are describing something, we explain what is being talked about. It may be a process, it may be a person, it may be a place, it may be an event. We fill in all the details and then conclude. The good old method of coda writing, wherein we collect all our ideas, we put them together headwise. I'll just be taking an example and we'll work through the coda steps when I take up that example. Here, this has been a question paper in the CBSE class 12 a few years back. You had to write, the children had to write about the factual description of a new library in the school, the word limit being 150 words. We began with where the library is located, the size of the library, where the bookshelves are placed, what books have been kept. We are not talking about how the children felt there. Nothing about the personal experience, only the facilities, the provisions, and that is all is to be taken in the factual description. Now, writing about a factual description of a space, we can help our children with all these, because these words have to be told to the children. These are the resources. That is what justifies our roles as facilitators. To the left of, to the right, in the foreground, there, where, next, below, up, down. But not these words in isolation. With examples have to be provided to them. Now look at this, another question which has appeared in the CBSE exams, steps for preparing for the board exam. Here we are not looking at the content, we're just focusing on the parts of it, the introduction and the steps. Then a few more questions. Write a factual description of a multiplex cinema in your locality in 100 to 125 words. So we'll be talking about a locality, beginning with the city, coming down to locality, zooming into where this multiplex is, and then talking about it. The size, the furniture, the physical facilities that are there, they all fall into the category of physical description. This is what is ultimate. Factual description of a place begins with the location, where the place is located, the place in mention. What are the features? What is seen first? How do we go in? What things, what specifications do we zoom in then? There we may be using our adjectives, but in a very simple language using simple present tense. In a factual description about an object, which is more so like a description, which is already talked about, we may be giving an introduction, then external features, finer details, close with a good concluding sentence. It is the same. Now the process, again, the aim, stepwise details. For example, the process as simple as of filling up a form, or let's take, if a friend of mine asked me how to register for this webinar, I would just share the link with her. I would tell her that you click on the document that is available, fill in all the details that is required. Not a big deal. A simple process, but yes, she needed a run through, a hand holding. It may be because it is a mechanical process, but then it involves active human inputs. Happy writing to our children only when we as teachers are there to help them guide through. How do they put together their ideas in descriptive? They may be left because there is so much about an object which can be described, but how do they sift what is required? Talking about physical description, talking about location, talking about finer details, they all have to be pillared and lastly concluded with the help of a summing statement. That's all I have to share about descriptive writing. Thank you. Over to you, Ma'am Nilima.
Thank you very much, Mamta.
Thank you.
Once again, it was a fantastic presentation. And what the tips that you have given are really, really useful. Thank you very much for your presentation. And the important thing that is there for expository writing is that in the current century, communication is very important. And dissemination of information, correct information, is really the need of the hour. So if people are able to understand how to write and disseminate properly the information that is required to be given, I think a teacher's job is done. Thank you very much. And your pointers were really useful. I hope whoever is attending this webinar could take back all these pointers home and use them in the classroom. Thank you very much. Our next panelist is Dr. Rajni Jamini. About her, over 20 years of teaching experience as teacher trainer, and ELT expert. Currently working as lecturer English with the Directorate of Education, which is itself a very challenging job. She has worked with NCERT, SCERT, CBSE, DIETS, RMSA, SSA as curriculum developer and material developer. A Fulbright scholar trained by British Council, a trainer for Trinity College London also. She has authored books for teenagers, and her specialty is in adapting Shakespeare. Wow. Her latest achievement is the International Award from the Global Education Leadership that she has received for joyful learning. Congrats, Rajni. And over to you, Dr. Rajni Jamini.
Thank you so much. It's such a wonderful opportunity. And today I'll be talking about analytical writing. Now, analytical writing, as you know, is an important part of any and every national or international exam. So it is a very, very important aspect of teaching writing. And today I'll be dealing with the process of teaching analytical writing in the classroom. Next slide, please. In CBSE, it has been introduced in class 10th this year. So let's see what do we have in CBSE. Next slide, please. today I'm going to restrict my talk to what CBSE expects our students, because today we are a gathering of especially school teachers. So in class 10th, the students are expected to write an analytical paragraph on the basis of a given map, chart, report, line graph. A few years earlier, I think it used to come as data interpretation. So it's another form of that. And this data that is given to the students may also come in the form of verbal input, and it's for 10 marks, so which is a big chunk. In class 12th also, the students need to, next slide please. In class 12th also, the students need to use analytical writing in writing section as well as in literature section, be it when they are writing the article or when they need to analyze the characters for writing. So it is a very, very important thing that would be, I think, starting from class 9th onwards, because whatever comes in class 10th, as teachers, we start practicing it from class 9th onwards, and up till class 12th. And of course, it's an important part of college writing also. Next slide, please. So how do we go about it? Now, first thing is to familiarize the students with the various kinds of graphs that come. So this one is a bar graph, as you can see. Next one. This one is a line graph. Now, to people who are spatially challenged, I think, the graphs themselves seem very threatening. So it's very important that we practice the various, forms of data presentation with the students and remove that fear. Next slide, please. This one is a pie chart. So, to be able to analyze information from a chart, from a graph is very, very difficult. Next one, please. This is verbal input. So teachers who are, more verbally intelligent, they are linguistically intelligent, they find, verbal input easier. But as I said, for students, any or both can be quite a challenging task. Next slide, please. Now, having familiarized them with the, types of questions, what are the challenges that a teacher is going to face? What are the processes that she needs to keep in mind? How to go about it? So collecting ideas, if I were to go by coder, so ideas are already given in the information that is provided to you. Now, what comes next is how to organize these ideas. So seems like an uphill task, but today we'll be talking about some simple methods through which we can, convey it to the students in a very simple manner. Next slide, please. So the first one is, it's a kind of three-pronged strategy or approach. The first thing that the children need to know is describe the paragraph, or describe what is there in the information that is provided. So look at the graph and ask yourself, what is it that the graph is telling you? So 1 or 2 sentences describing the graph, that forms the opening lines of your analytical paragraph. The next thing is analyze the trends. Now dive into that paragraph and see what are the trends. What do you see? What is increasing? What is decreasing? What is going up? What is going down? So these are the kinds of things that would form the center of that paragraph. And finally, give conclusion. Now, on the basis of whatever you have said in describing and analyzing, you have to come to a simple conclusion as to what it is all about. Next slide, please. Now, you can also share essay skeletons with the students. I'm saying essay skeletons, although we are writing only a paragraph today, but because, only the length changes. In a paragraph, you have 4 or 5 points. In an essay, you have 4 or 5 paragraphs. So these are called essay skeletons. For introduction, what do you do? Like I said, that first point is the topic of the graph or the input or the map that has been given to you, and you just have to talk about what are the overall patterns or the trends that you observe in that. Then comes the body or the center part. Now, what do you write there? There you have to go into a little detail. There you have to talk about what are the contrasting features. You have to compare the various information that is given to you. And then finally, the conclusion is all about giving a one-liner or 2 lines about what this whole information is trying to tell you. So now that organization has been done, comes drafting. And for drafting, what do you need? You need sentence structures, you need vocabulary. So it's good to, share some good sentence structures that the students would be able to use. Like in this one, you have a chart that is given. One more click, Dolly ma'am. So you have this bar graph that is given to you. Now, on the basis of this bar graph, if you were to write the introduction, what will you write? One more, ma'am. What will you write? So you will have to give the students that as shown in this picture, or this picture clearly illustrates, or it exhibits, or what is depicted here. So these are the kinds of words and phrases that the students would be using for writing the introduction. Then comes the body, the next one. Now for that, what do? Now for that, since you have to speak in detail, since you have to compare and contrast, so have a look at the various things that are given. Say, for example, if you look at the trends in reading here. Now reading was popular till 90s amongst the elderly people, but it fell till the year 2000, and then again it grew in popularity. So what are the kinds of words that the students would need? So one more click, Dolly ma'am. So they would need to be able to write that, what is showing a gradual increase, or what is steadily growing, or what has reached a peak, and maybe something that has been, popular all through. So these are the kinds of sentences that they need to have handy, so that they are able to get their grammar as well as their vocabulary right. Next one, please. Now comes the conclusion. So what do you do for the conclusion? You have this pie chart that reflects data about teenagers' eating habits. So what will you conclude? Now, as you can see that, more than half the pie chart shows you that the children are eating or getting more than 40% of their calories from fast food. So to conclude, what would you like to say? You would like to say that yes, fast food is something that is becoming more and more popular amongst the students, or the children, or the teenager that this whole paragraph is all about. One more click, ma'am. So this is the language of classification and listing, that how many categories it has been divided into, what are the general classifications. So you can say here there are 4 classifications or 4 distinct types. So next slide, please. Now sometimes there are words and phrases that have cause and effect relation. Now what to write there? Now the kinds of sentences for that is that this may lead to, this may cause, this problem has been stemming from that or caused by that. So good resource to share with the students. Now let's do one example together as a group and see how we go about the whole process. Next slide, please.
Rajni, could you go a little faster, please?
Yes, ma'am. So although we know the process, this is not always easy. Like, as you can say that even highly qualified people sometimes are unable to make sense of these graphs. So it's very important that as teachers we familiarize the students with what it is all about. Next slide, please. So just a quick example. So when we are to write the introduction, what do we do? As I said, look at the graph and ask yourself, what do you see here? So the question tells you that this graph shows the frequency of eating out amongst the teenagers of Indian city. So that becomes your introduction. Dolly ma'am, next slide. So that's the first thing that you ask, and then you give the example. Next one. One more. So this graph shows the frequency. Then when you are writing about the body, what do you see in this graph? That in 2010 and in 2015, never and once a year. I mean, these were the people, around 10% people chose not to go out and eat out. but in 2020 their number has increased drastically. So something is wrong, something has happened, and that is one of the reasons. So one point can be this. Next point, ma'am.
Sorry, Rajni, I have to cut you short. Kindly
Okay.
conclude.
Yes, ma'am. So please bring on the last slide. So this is how you go about it. But, just doing the examples will not do. As a teacher, you have to first do it yourself with the class. Then you give it to the students in groups so that, they get the hang of it. And then you do give it to them individually. So follow this process of I do, we do, and you do. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rajni. And apologies for cutting you short, though this topic demands a lot of time to discuss with the students, and the most important topic that CBSE has now introduced this time. And analytical skills, very important for students to learn, again a 21st century skills. Anyway, our fourth speaker is Miss Dolly Dhawan. A little bit about her. She has an experience of teaching for 24 years, a highly qualified professional in teaching ELT and ELT through technology. She has attended a number of MOOC courses from the University of Oregon, Department of State, USA. She has attended professional development sessions by Electronic Village, a project of TESOL's call section, through virtual workshops. She has attended numerous webinars in ELT, a CBSE Master Trainer for ASL and Challenges in English Core module, authored a series of school books, Chit Chat on Speaking and Listening for NCERT. She has been part of NCERT workbook development team for classes 9th and 10th, words and expression. A regular learner at RELO, US Embassy, British Council, and Trinity College London again. Dolly Dhawan, and she would be talking about persuasive writing. Thank you, Dolly.
Thank you so much, ma'am. And thank you so much, Rajni, for
Could
giving
you
us
please
an insight.
keep to the time limit, Dolly?
Yes, ma'am. So I'll start with my presentation now. Yeah, so we see here 3 advertisements catering to different audience. Now, what is similar? We agree that all 3 advertisements are persuading, but with different purposes. The first one caters to promotion of a product. Its language persuades us to buy the product. And if you look at the second advertisement, this is about wildlife conservation. Just notice the language. Sometimes the only option is to leave your roots behind. She's recently become widowed and a single mother. She and her baby had to flee from their home after her husband was used to make piano keys. So the language and the personification of an elephant, which makes the readers reflect about the issue very deeply. And the third relates to, of course, consumerism. So purpose of all 3 advertisements is to influence the readers or audience or customers to accept their point of view. Yes, we are going to talk about persuasive genre today in writing skills. Persuasive writing is found in advertisements, debates, speeches, posters, even in letters to persuade or protest about something. For example, letter to editor, wherein we give suggestions or advice, which is also a form of persuasion. Let's check out the CBSE curriculum for class 12 for writing skills, where persuasive features are found the most. Question number 4 mainly caters to advertisements and posters for persuasive writing. In letters to editor and, of course, complaint letters also we find persuasive features. And in very long questions, question number 6 and 7, it's found mainly in debate and speech. Now, let's go through an example of speech writing, and we'll check out the features of persuasive genre in this. It's a speech supporting the ban on plastic and what it means to us in our own words. So the persuasive features, let's look at them. We need to establish facts to support the arguments to have an effective persuasive writing. Of course, we must focus on the specific area of the topic. The readers must be persuaded to believe that our conclusions are based on facts and shared values. Rhetorical questions, strong opinions, imperatives are some very aggressive features and methods to persuade the readers to think about the issue. Extremely important point is the emotional hook of hope, fear, shock, desire, anger to grab attention and influence change. We may look at different sources to confirm the reliability of our facts. So let's check how to collect facts. The important feature is that when we begin writing a speech, we follow coda. And the first step in following coda is, of course, to collect facts, which can be done through brainstorming. We can have pair and group discussions wherein students share their previous knowledge about the issue. Even posters can be used, and teacher may bring in some teaching aids to provide more information to the students. In exams, of course, we've got visual and verbal cues from newspaper headlines and extracts from magazines. So after collecting the ideas, we need to order them by laying them in a proper format of introduction, main details, that is the body, and finally the conclusion. We looked at how to collect facts, and now to begin, we need to use an attention-grabbing device. The opening line could be a statement, a quote, maybe use of a visual, and a combination of these to gain attention and make the audience sit up. One can even give a roadmap to the destination by talking briefly about the main sections of the speech. Anecdotes make the audience warm up and identify it with it. And it makes connections to their own lives. It could trigger emotions of grief or happiness in the audience. So let's check the body of a speech, which comprises of the details, which must be kept brief. Maybe we can include 3 to 4 logical arguments. So the 2 paragraphs must focus on the causes and effects of the issue, which could be stated through arguments, explanations, and examples. Speeches appeal to emotions, intellect, heart, and mind. So vocabulary of persuasion and protest can influence and change the mindsets. So our students must be provided with language expressions and vocabulary used for persuasion to be able to present an effective speech. Finally, reinforcement of the main points, which is done by restating the ideas and then doing a quick summary of the main points. There could be suggestions to the problem or call to contribute to the cause. So it should have very strong words to evoke powerful feelings. Students can collect famous speeches by Mahatma Gandhi, Winston Churchill, speeches of Antony and Brutus from Julius Caesar, Greta Thunberg, or Malala Yousafzai for examples of strategies used by these effective speakers. To be able to connect to the audience, making use of rhetoric questions, imperative commands, use of connectors, and strong words are some points to help create persuasion and power in speeches. Thank you so much for your patience. Over to Nilima ma'am.
Thank you very much, Dolly. Once again, tips, lovely. And when I say tips, again, I feel it's an acronym for try if you please. So wonderful. And the contextualized topic that you have given, which relate to a child, very important, which are experienced by the child. For example, the use of plastic. every day the children are, asked, and they see the posters all around. Good, very good. Thank you very much. Our last speaker, but not the least, is Ms. Alka Rai, the senior most amongst us, lots of experience. She started her career as a lecturer selected by State Public Service Commission, Madhya Pradesh, and she taught postgraduates for 5 years, thereafter taught in schools. She has the teaching experience of more than 40 years, 4 decades, and an ELT consultant and trainer for 13 years. Conducted uncountable training programs across the country. And she has been a master trainer for CBSE, for CCE and ASL also. She was involved in developing the communication skills textbooks for CBSE, developed ELT textbooks already in the market and in the process of developing, support material for ELT textbooks, has done content development for renowned organizations like Trinity College London. A certified storyteller, she trains teachers to develop stories for effective teaching. And there onwards comes her creativity. And that is what she's going to discuss today, creative writing, how to go about it, the steps that the teachers should teach students. Thank you very much, Dolly, and now Alka, over to you, please. Kindly, keep to the time limit. We are already running late.
Thank you, Dr. Sharma, for all those lovely words. It's criminal to ask a storyteller to stick to time, but I'm going to try my best and do that. You see, I'm going to be talking about creative writing. I'm going to be talking about creative writing. This is something that is the topmost point in Bloom's taxonomy of cognitive learning. When I talk of creative writing today, I'm going to take a very, very special aspect of creative writing. Creative writing could be invaded for various things, but I'm going to be specifically talking about narrative writing. That's writing of a short story, because that is what CBSE has in its syllabus for class 9. It says, write a short story based on given cues in about 150 to 200 words. And the question is number 4 in the question paper. It is for 10 marks. To be able to talk about the process of writing, I'm going to take an example. We'll deal with the question later on, but I'm going to read it out now because I'm going to talk about it as we proceed. This is about a girl called Sia, who is about to go to her grandmother's house because the holidays have started. But when she reaches home from school, her dad says, no, they cannot go because the next door neighbor, Mr. Verma, has vanished, has disappeared, and the police is there investigating, and they are going to be required there to help with the investigations. Now, telling the students to write a story based on something, on any kind of input, is not going to be possible for them to do unless you tell them how to go about it. They have to be empowered to be able to do it on their own. They know 2 things, that there is a beginning to the story and there's an end to the story, but it is never a straight road. It would not be a story if it was. So the story, once it begins, there has to be some kind of action that takes place. Action could have challenges, there could be problems, till it reaches a point where there can be no further, development of the action, but for the protagonist to face the challenge head on or to run away. Something has to happen. After that, the action has to start going down. The problem has to start getting solved, which we call the falling action, and then you come to the end. So it is this path from beginning to the end that a child needs to be told about. The exposition is always given in the question paper we find. We are told what has happened. We are told who are the characters and where it has happened. So It has those, again, what Ruchi spoke about, the 5 W's and H. It is applicable to story writing as well. The first thing is what happened. So if you go to the question, it says what happened. We can write this in 5 to 10 words. We have to remember that a word limit is 150 to 200 words. We can't afford to forget that. So in 5 to 10 words, the child just writes, old Mr. Verma disappeared. Then the characters have to be introduced. I will not talk about describing the characters here because this descriptive part has been done by the first panelist, but you have to state something about the characters. The opening of the sentence, the opening of the question gives you the number of characters that are already involved in that. Like here, we have the girl, Sia, we have her dad, we have Mr. Verma, and we have the policeman. If the child has planned a story, he can always add more if required, or just deal with these characters. So this is to be written in about 20 to 25 words. The child analyzes and picks up the characters from the Q question. Now describing the setting, where it happened, when it happened. So where it happened, it could be inside a structured building. It could be a house, it could be something else, or it could be outside. To be able to write these descriptions or to state where it happened or when it happened, again, that has been done by the first panelist describing the place, but in a very broader term. Here we come to something very, very specific, that is to deal with that story per se that the child is going to develop. So the child has to write about that place, whether it is outside or inside, just within 10 to 15 words in one sentence. It was an old house, or it was a deep forest, dark, deep forest. So just the place where it happened to be written in 10 to 15 words. That kind of a reckoner is always very helpful for the child. We are, empowering our children when we give them such lists. We cannot ask them to do something without giving them the tools for it. And this is the process of providing tools. We provide the tools and let them do the structures on their own. Let them create something on their own. When, again, the time factor, here we're not going to talk of, it could be just this clock, that clock, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, or it could be middle of the night. It could be just before something happened, or it was at dawn, or it was next month, or as soon as, or next, after this, suddenly, while, during. So all this kind of a list of words can again become a great tool for the child to be able to decide on what time he wants to incorporate within his story. Now comes the main body of the story, the action, what we call the problems that begin with the conflicts, because conflicts equals to problems. We talk of 3 kinds of conflicts, and we tell the children that these are the 3 different kinds of conflicts. We give them a chart and we tell them, choose your conflict. It depends on each child what kind of conflict the child wants to use. And that's why I've used the word if. If it's conflict number 1, where the protagonist has to deal with his own self, has to be able to decide, is thinking, cannot decide what to do. And then she decides to do something. So what are the problems that start arising with that? Here, should I? Will I? Or shouldn't I? Can I? But if I do this? So such words, these modals can be given over here. We've been teaching modals in grammar. This is the right place to be able to enable them to use it, to learn grammar in usage. Next could be the second conflict. It is protagonist against the antagonist. Is it a villain that a person faces? Did Sia know something about it? Did she see something in the house and she decided to explore on her own and she found an evil character? Or did she discuss with her parents that she knows something and should she tell? And what is the opposition she faces there? Should she? Shouldn't she? And that is why now the problem that arises, we give them these words to be able to write about the character that is there, what has happened, what is happening to her, does she face a setback, does she run up against some kind of difficulty, suddenly she faces something, is there an attack on her? So the kinds of words, again, we go back to our grammar that we've taught them. So, okay, give them adjectives plus nouns, give them adverbs, so that they are able to use that tool to be able to take on the second kind of conflict. It could be a natural disaster that the protagonist faces. It could be a flood, a tsunami kind of a thing. It could be an epidemic or a pandemic like we face today, coronavirus, and we are all locked up at home. And even if there is a problem next door, perhaps she cannot go out because of this, or what does she do? So that is the problem she faces. Or if there's a flood and she needs to go somewhere, she faces reluctant boatmen. There's a storm, the river is angry, it's in spate, the breeze is strong, there's total, or there could be an earthquake. So again, here, this kind of ready reckoner enables the child to decide on the kind of conflict that he would take, the problem that he would face. So any of these conflicts enables the child to take the story on the path that he needs to take to the climax. Having spoken about the problems, having started on a journey of going to that end, but facing these problems in between, the problems can arise, they can increase, or they can, it will be the same problem, but no solution in sight. And then the child reaches, the story comes to the highest point of the rising action, because the challenges can go up to a certain point and no more. And that is the highest point. Here we write this in about 30 to 50 words. For example, going back to the same question, seeing light in the locked house, she enters and then somebody shoots. Or she decides to reveal what she knows, and there is opposition from the family coming in, or support from the family coming in, or Mr. Verma is found hurt badly, and Sia's family, what action do they take? So here is the climax. The final thing has happened here. After this, it can only start going down. It is time now to tie loose ends. When we go to tying loose ends, we again give them a ready reckoner, which they can use, the words from which they can use for tying these loose ends together. Because now the problem is getting solved gradually. We use infinitives, we use adverbs, verbs, modals, and that is the kind of collection of words you will find in this kind of a reckoner. Now the resolution, the final end. The problem is solved. We want our children to live in a happy world. We want them to end their note on a happy note, as well, their story on a happy note. And in a world looking for happiness, it is always advisable to tell them that always think of poetic justice, always think of, writing a story which ends happily, and a concluding sentence could have a moral or a value-based question. Now coming to the language that they need to use. With this, I come to a collective chart which the children can be given about the first two parts of the coda: collection and organizing. And the language they can use is, in telling a story, you're always telling something that has happened, so you use past tense. But you just can't say everything in simple past tense, it would be so unnatural. You use all the forms of past tense. Maybe somewhere in between, there might be a need to to write in present simple tense also, especially if there's a dialogue, and there should be a dialogue, some dialogues added to the story. They make it colorful, they make it interesting, and these are always in present tense, because you're quoting the exact words of the speaker. You're using direct speech over here. And it could be like, oh, really? Why did you? And some such, guidelines can be given to the students. What you can see is, in this entire process, you are avoiding the lecture method. You are giving them the tools to be able to create on their own a skill that will empower them for their entire life. Once they get used to this kind of practice in the classroom, it becomes internalized. It becomes a second nature with them, and they are able to carry forward this in their entire life when they have to write something. They say creativity is an inborn talent. It can't be learned. My contention is, or my take on this is, that yes, creativity is an inborn talent, but the craft of creativity can be learned by everyone. So all students are creative. Help them to write creatively by empowering them. Thank you all so much. Grateful.
Thank you, Alka. It was a great learning. And you touched, which is really unlimited. Creativity has no bounds, no limits, and even no time limit, but we kept you within the time limit. Thank you very much for the presentation. And my last and the concluding remark would be that could we all think of, Bloom's taxonomy and align these presentations to Bloom's taxonomy from the lower level to the higher order thinking skills. Now, there are some questions. Dr. Sanjay Arora has, raised some questions. I'll read out the question. Within this short span, you have, these are the questions and the comments also. You have excellently explained descriptive writing, madam. Could you please tell how to help children plan their ideas to organize? Will a generalized sequence of WH words help? Ruchi, could you answer this, please? Ruchi Sengar, please.
Thank you, Dr. Arora. Thank you for your question. No, I wouldn't recommend a generalized sequence. Why? Because we have different kinds of descriptions, like I mentioned. A WH sequence will definitely not work for describing a person. It's specifically limited to an experience or an event. For example, think about an object or animal, a person. It will not work. There are different organizers for that. You have to think a place. It definitely will not work because it caters in other elements also, which is why different organizers for all of this. Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay. The next question to you, Ruchi, from Dr. Arora. If the transition words are given to the students, will it not hamper their creativity and lexical development?
No, actually, transition, wow, nice. Actually, transition words help the piece become more robust by keeping it cohesive. If we have, however, firstly, next, later, then, and so on and so forth, it connects one idea to the other. It definitely does not hamper the creativity. In fact, it adds to the creativity. If you don't have these words, the creativity is all over the place. So you need a lasso to get it all in one place. And that is the structure comes from the transition words, right? Thank you.
Thank you very much. And the next question is, your range strategy is great, but the risk is that most of the students will use 150 words in just describing the graph. This is addressed to Rajni. How do the students handle the challenge of analyzing the trends? Are they familiar with it? Rajni.
Okay. Now, I was actually looking at the next question. So can I answer that first, ma'am? How to best teach picture interpretation? Yeah, so see, the strategy remains the same. Even if it's a picture, then also, the first thing that you could do is talk about in general terms, what is it that the picture talks about? And then you dive, deeper into the picture and look at, the individual elements. What is the picture trying to show? And finally, what is the feeling or the message that the picture is trying to tell you? So this is how we would probably be, teaching, writing analytical paragraph based on a picture also. But that was Freud's question. answering Dr. Sanjay Arora's question that, how to use, how do students handle the challenge of analyzing the trends? Now, for that, as I said, that practice is what is required. That the three-ranged strategy, it is important. I don't think how it can be a risk. If you do 2-3, in the class together, I'm sure the students will be able to master the strategy. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And the fourth question is by Dr. Arora. How were shock statements, questions to grab the attention of the readers? Persuasive writing, Dolly.
Thank you,
The
Dr.
attention
Arora.
grabbers.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Arora, for the question. Yes, I think I addressed this also. Of course, starting the speech with a question or some shocking statement actually evokes the feelings, and it puts the audience into that mode. So I think this is a very good strategy, makes the audience reflect on the issue, as I said. Thank you.
Thank you, Dolly. Then there is a question from Freund. How to best teach picture interpretation, writing a para on a given picture? I think, sir, if you could, just go through the YouTube presentation, you will get everything there. Then there is another question by Dr. Madhumati Kotam Raju. Please give us some tips on creative writing and tertiary writing. I think this also is there in the presentation of Alkarai. So you could just go through the presentation on YouTube also, which will be there forever, I suppose. Thank you very much. If I have just 1 minute, I would like to conclude from my side. Today, on the occasion of Rabindranath Tagore's birth anniversary, I would like to recite 4 lines from his poem, Keep Me Fully Glad in Times of Corona. Keep me fully glad, make my life glad with nothing. The rains sweep the sky from end to end. Jasmines in the wet, untamable wind revel in their own perfume. The cloud-hidden stars thrill in secret. Let me fill to the full my heart with nothing but my own depth of joy. Thank you very much. It has been a wonderful session. Thank you all the panelists.